Hi, I'm Pamela from Pamela's Patterns and welcome to my studio. This step is for Pamela's Patterns number 115, the softly pleated dress, and it's called the proportion check. As you can see from what I'm wearing, there is a waistline and there are pleats. And the whole idea of getting this to look good on each individual is getting the proportions in the right place. Getting the waistline where it should be and the pleats ending just above the waist so that the skirt part of it just falls nicely over your hips, tummy, whatever other scallops that you might have there. So to get your dress prepared for this, I have done some of the preliminary things. I put in the stay tape at the shoulders, around the neckline. I've serged the shoulder seams and the sleeves are serged in flat construction. What you'll see here that I've put the pleats in the skirt. There are 6 pleats in the front and 6 pleats in the back. And then I've basted the skirt to the top. The basting part is important because this is going to allow us to change the proportions, change the pattern, and then the next time you make the dress, all that work is done. So all this proportion check only has to be done the first time you're making the garment. I've basted the sides and sleeve seams of the dress and I'm ready for my proportion check. At this point, when you put the dress on, it might not look the way that you want it to. It might look a little too wide here. It might stick out a little here. I've made the patterns to accommodate an hourglass figure, something that curves out at the hip, and if you're straighter at the hip, then you're going to be taking it a little bit and adjusting the pattern. But I'd rather have to take something in than let it out. So those of you who are straighter on the sides can just take it in and I'll be showing you how to do that. The idea of this is twofold. The first thing that you want to do is to see if you like where the waistline. It's sort of an empire waistline. It doesn't come up like right under the bust, but just slightly lower. The pleats are about 2 inches long and you want the pleats to end right where your waist is, or right where you start to go out the most at your abdomen, so that the pleats will just hang nicely over any scallops or fluff or anything like that that you have. So you're just going to be checking that to see, first of all, where that should be on you. I'm going to put on my little pin magnet here, and I'm going to look in the mirror, and I'm just going to play around with it a little bit. So I'll just fold up a little and say, oh, would that look better higher? Would it look better lower? And if I think that it should be a little bit higher, I can just take my pins and pin a tuck in here, just so that I know where a good spot would be. I don't have to pin it all the way across, maybe just 3 or 4 pins across the front, just so that I can double check to see if I like where that seam is ending and to check where the pleats are coming to here. Once I've decided, okay, this looks good, I'm going to raise it up about 1/2 inch here so that the pleats hit me in the right spot. Then I need to check the width of the dress. So with this dress, in order to get some essence of waist going on here, we want to be able to take this in so that it is a little bit snugger but not hugging. In other words, I don't want to see any bumps or scallops or anything, but you do want it to kind of skim your body. So I would take a pin and put in at the side seam. Right here, like I said, I don't want it to be tight. I still want to be able to move that around on me, but I want it to be fairly close to the body just to give that nice waist shape. You know, we're trying to make you look like a waist even if you don't think you do have one. So then I'll move down and I can see it looks a little wide here at the sides. Every fabric's going to be a little different too, so you want to double check each fabric that you use. This is a very slippery, slinky fabric, and I can probably take it in a little bit more. So I'll just go ahead and pin down the sides, and I can pin down to my hip area. I can't really reach any further than that at this point, but generally, once I get the sides pinned, I would take it in the rest of the way through the hem from the hip level down, so it would be the same. And then I would pin this side and just check in the mirror to make sure that it's the width that I want and the height of the waist that I'd like. Once I have that done, then I'm ready to change my pattern, make the adjustments to the dress, and finish it. So I'll meet you over at the cutting table. I'm ready to change the dress and the pattern, and this is the last time I'll have to do this proportion check. It'll all be done, so when I want to make the dress again, it's much easier. I can get rid of these steps. The first thing I did was to mark where the pins were along the sides, the waist, and it angled back into the seam at the armhole right here. So these will be my new stitching lines for the side seam. But the other thing that I needed to do was to shorten the bodice a little bit here. So that would mean taking apart the basting here, cutting 1/2 inch off of the bottom, and then applying some of that knit stay tape right in here. This will be where my new stitching will be. And that knit stay tape will keep the waistline hanging really smooth and looking great. So once I get the new waistline cut and then sewn and serged back together, then I will be able to sew and serge my side seams. If you don't have a serger, it's okay. You can just use the sewing machine because knits don't ravel. Now I need to change the pattern for the next time to make this easier. So to shorten the waistline, I have a lengthen and shorten line. I'll cut that. I've made a line 1/2 inch above because that's what I'm shortening the bodice. Stick in some pins here, and then I'll tape that all the way across. You'll see too that I drew in the 1/2 inch line here to take that in, so I can cut that right off the pattern as well. I'll do that to both the front and the back. On the skirt, you can see here where I've also taken in 1/2 inch, and to get a nice curve, I like to use a hip curve ruler. I can lay this down on the pattern and find where the nicest part of that curve is to match the pattern, and then I can just pull it in a little bit. Now that's one way of doing it. Another way would just be to mark with a seam gauge where you want your new cutting lines to be. And then you'll be able to trim off the pattern. You'll be ready to stitch it back together and complete your dress.